Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Ratitude Podcast. This is about my 17th or 18th one now, and every single time I have a guest on, I'm like so excited. I'm so excited about our guest today, Tyler Johson. He's a dude. First of all, he is a dude. I'm wearing these Hey Dude shoes. I think in honor of Tyler, but he is a guy's guy. And I met him in one of the network marketing companies that I've been trying out in recent years, trying to find the one that's going to really pop. And I started doing these morning, what were they called? Morning somethings. When you start out in the morning. And Tyler was hosting these things, and he is brilliant. He just knows how to talk to people. He knows how to motivate people. He's got this expertise in coaching and health, and just as a physical specimen. He's just a wonderful human being, and I wanted him to be on this show, and I'm so excited to welcome Tyler Johson to our show.
Oh, thank you, Robert. You're too kind, man. I do appreciate it, though. I'm happy to be here, and it was very kind of you to ask me to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you here. Were we in Savvy together? Is that where we were?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Savvy was it. That was an MLM that actually worked pretty well for me until I didn't like the way things were going and I exited it. But it's so interesting that this world, I come from the corporate world. I'm a chemical engineer. I worked for Exxon for 25 years. And then I discovered this network marketing business model because Tony Robbins told me that that's what I needed to find in order to fund my Pepperdine track team. And so I went searching for the right one. And the thing that I found that I want to just say is I found people like Tyler. It's by far the best thing that's ever happened to me in the network marketing field is I found amazing people in every one of the few companies that I've tried so far, just amazing people that have gone through, the trials and tribulations of starting businesses. They're entrepreneurial. Tyler's very entrepreneurial. But they've developed this personal development mindset that I think is just really amazing. So, Tyler, I wanted to first ask you, how did you get started in your entrepreneurial life, and what kinds of things have you done, and where did that mindset really come from?
I definitely was blessed to have a dad that came from nothing. And growing up, we would, when we were working and we were doing things, he would put on audio tapes. So like Brian Tracy, Napoleon Hill, we would sit and have to listen to them, and then he would question us about them. And when we were little, we didn't really enjoy it too much.
Yeah.
However, every Monday night, we would spend an hour going through Think and Grow Rich. So I've read that book with my family and on my own probably, 15 to 20 times.
Wow.
And so I grew up understanding probably a lot of things that other kids didn't understand. And then having sports as a driver to be able to take it and see results from at a young age was probably one of the best things. I was an athlete, and being able to take the mindset and understanding how to deal with people and how reacting to people mattered. And, just really my dad, I attribute it all really to my dad. And then I just I think of all my family, I got the most hooked in understanding human behavior. And I wanted to understand why I acted the way I did sometimes, which wasn't always great, right? Like my good times, my bad moments, my good moments, really understanding myself so that I could understand others better. And so I've just been on that journey really for probably since I was about 7, 8 years old. So about 41 years or so.
Wow, that's amazing to me. I don't know that I've heard anyone say that exactly, that they started listening to those personal development tapes and when they were 7 years old. Gosh, I wish I would have known, or someone would have put them on somewhere and I would have listened. But you listened. Now, did you listen because you were quizzed, or did you actually like it?
I think in the beginning it was a chore that I had to get done.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't want to get the belt. So, however, seeing my dad's successes and failures, and he had some really big successes, I saw, oh, well, he was always saying, this is what you have to have any real success. And
Wow.
so thinking like, oh, well, I want to be successful when I grow up, I started going, well, then I better pay attention. And so then I got interested in taking some of the like I remember Brian Tracy talking about when people would give you a guilt trip,
Uh-huh.
especially within your own family, which is huge in family. He would say, I remember him saying, when someone gives you a guilt trip, you say, are you trying to make me feel guilty? And I thought, oh, I have a bunch of people in my family that like to make me feel guilty. So I was like, I'm going to take this for a test spin, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I started taking those little bits and pieces and taking them for a little test drive and seeing how they worked out. And I realized, wow, there's something to this. And so then I got more and more into it and just, I've taken majority of the best seminars across the world and just really enjoyed it over the years, really learning from the best. And then if I'm able to come back and be on the supporting cast, I've done that as well because that's so much fun and you learn a lot. So
Yeah. So now, what did your dad do? Did you see him evolve over time as he was listening to these tapes?
that's actually a really good question. Well, what my dad did was he was a doctor, so on the sports medicine side.
Okay.
So he was both a chiropractor and on the medicine side. So he had kind of a yin and yang to the way he worked. He was, doctor of the year, stuff like that. So I saw those successes.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his failures, like when we lost, everything to, one of his partners messed him up and everything fall apart, and watched him be able to rebuild again. I think that's probably when I saw the grit and the determination and the intention of what he believed come into play. And I didn't recognize it more probably till I was older because I was, my younger years. However, when I got into my late 20s and really looked back at it and went, wow, like it's pretty impressive. I don't think most people would have said, okay, I want to get back to a 7-figure level again when, they'd done so much and worked so hard for years and then lost it all almost overnight. So
Wow.
that's probably the biggest part I saw. I think it's hard sometimes to see someone grow and change when you're right next to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like gaining weight. You gain half a pound a month for 2 years and all of a sudden you're 24 pounds heavier and you're like, how'd this happen?
Yeah.
And your partner doesn't know either. So because they are used to it, but if you gained 10 pounds in a week, they'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the same thing with the evolution of the mind and the growth. Sometimes, unless we take huge leaps, it's a little bit harder to tell. And I think as a young child and young man, it was not super easy for me to see how he grew.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see it actually as an adult more. I saw when he kind of had little maybe epiphanies and he kind of pivoted and changed the way he did things on certain things. So that was really interesting because he was very controlling, and seeing him to be able to just kind of go, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Now,
And just like let things roll off of him was very cool.
was your mom the same way, or were they together?
Yeah, they were got divorced at about they married almost 40 years and they got divorced.
Oh, wow.
How that happens, I have no clue. I
Yeah.
still am like, huh? I was in my late 20s or so, maybe mid 20s, and my mom is my mom's the same way.
Okay.
She's built her own companies and done her own thing. First, when we were younger, she was more into she was really big at church, like
Mm-hmm.
doing lots of big community projects and things of that nature. And then as the kids got older, because there was 9 of us,
9.
she, yes, they were prolific.
Yeah. Okay.
To say the least. So as we got older, they were able to, she was able to step away a little bit more and go build her dreams more. So she does a lot of energy counseling and puts on like seminars, kind of like Reiki, but at or
Uh-huh.
Reiki, however you say it, like at a completely different level than most people work at. She's been doing it for about 40 years. So
But she was also into
I've got
personal.
that side to it.
She was also into
Oh
personal
yeah.
development. She listened to the tapes.
Yes. Yep. She
Wow.
was into it as well. I think my dad was definitely more hardcore because he was more like success was everything for him
Yeah.
because he was so poor. He got shipped off when he was little to a brother-in-law that was a jerk and stuff. So he came from a really hard background, and I think that just put that chip on his shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
or as I call him, a a strong suit
Hmm.
is what I call him. So that strong suit that really was a driving factor for him to be wanting to be successful all the time and having to be successful.
Yeah. Okay. So you had this very supportive, at least from a personal development perspective, upbringing, and then you graduate from high school, and then what happens? What? How did you evolve from there?
Wow. It was pretty chaotic through my 20s. So out of high school, um, I was fighting at the pro level, making money on the side because it wasn't a big thing. MMA wasn't really a big money maker back
So
then.
that was your sport,
However,
MMA.
yes. And
Okay.
so there wasn't much money in it back then. Did private security work. And then in college, so I actually went on a church mission for a little while, came back. That was around 19 to 20. I graduated at 17, so I graduated a year early, basically. Was in college, and my professor started noticing I started missing class too much, and he asked me what was up, and I said, well, I've got 2 other companies I'm running, and they've kind of blown up, and it's just, when someone doesn't show up for work, sometimes I got to go fill their spot. 'Cause there's a carpet cleaning company and a window cleaning company, and so he asked me to bring in my P&L sheet, and I did. And he said, "Kid, get out of here. You don't need to be in college." And I took him for his word, and I left, and I never went back.
Wow.
So,
So what happened to
um,
those businesses? How'd you get involved with network marketing?
so my dad actually developed a product back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, that was called Columbia, which now we call Slim Fast.
Mm.
And originally it was made for athletes to make more muscle. He was friends with Dr. Weeder,
Mm.
Joe Weeder, and he developed this. And then they found out that the people who were using it were tending to lose more weight than they were gaining weight.
Hmm.
So they instead turned it into a weight loss product. And then someone came, an investor of sorts came and said, hey, let's turn this into a network marketing company. It blew up. It became really big. We moved to Chicago from California when I was 8 or so. And we're there for a year because that was where like the hub was. And that's kind of how I got introduced. And they said back then they used to make like tapes
Hmm.
and videotapes when videotapes came. And I used to get paid by my dad like a quarter for every, or 10 cents or whatever for every copy I made. So
Hmm.
I'd make all these copies, and he would ship them out to everybody because you can just send a link, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, why are you doing this? And he would explain like, this is how I don't have to be on 1,000 calls. I just ship all these out. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I was just kind of like learning piece by piece.
Hmm.
Um, and he was just a big believer in network marketing because everybody has a fair shot.
Yeah.
Like, versus, you come into a lot of companies, like, you're never going to make as much as the guy right below the owner.
Hmm.
Like, it's just not going to happen. So unless he quits and or he gets fired or something like that, where network marketing, he always felt like it was a win-win. And I think in most cases, if it's set up correctly, then it should be truly a win-win,
Hmm.
and anyone has the opportunity to learn and grow through it. And I love that, most of the companies that are really good, I'd say 80% of them are really good. And there's 20% that probably aren't. That's pretty normal for any business, doesn't matter what industry you're in. They're really big on developing people and getting them happier, showing them how to be happy, how to learn how to market. Like, I probably take it to a different level when the people who work with me, I'm really big on like, let's teach you how to do this with even if you have another business at home that has nothing to do with this, like still teach you the same way how to market your brand, yourself, and learning just so people can always be successful, learning how to communicate effectively, things of that nature. Just, communicating your ideas and your thoughts and then hearing someone are two different things. So
Now, if I asked you what you do now, or is your answer you're a wealth and health coach, or what would your answer be?
well, last year I've actually taken, I don't know if you knew this or not. I think you do. I had both my hips replaced a year ago, and a few months before that, I had an abdominal and hernia repair, and then my wife tore her Achilles,
Mm.
and she just tore the other one 2 weeks
Oh.
ago. So I kind of took a little bit of time away from doing as much of that.
Hmm.
However, I still, even if I'm not being paid to do it, I'm doing it all the time with
Sure.
people. They're always like, "Hey, Tyler, could you help me with this? This isn't working." And I love to see people succeed. I know I wasn't able to find a lot of really great mentors, especially through my 20s. It wasn't really till my 30s I started finding the better mentors. So when people ask, I'm like, I just feel like I should do my best to, serve them and help them get them where they want to be. I believe that there's plenty out there for all of us. So I don't ever feel like anyone's my competition.
Yeah.
So I just love to help them and see where their linchpin is and work through that linchpin.
Hmm. So your body's recovering, your wife's body's covering, Jen is, and then what are you going to do?
I actually started an insurance agency. I was in insurance and investments in my 20s for a while, for about 4 years. Opened up an insurance agency that we're building now so I can help people be protected against losses that they shouldn't have to pay for and can really take care of. So I've always seen so many people screw up their financial life. And I've always been like, these are good ways to safeguard your life. So I wanted to get back in that. And then also it gives me a space to coach and train people to be successful in that same arena and make as much money as they want, because it's really, uncapped. You can make 7 figures a year if you're any good at what you do in insurance. So doing that, I still I work with a network marketing company. I still do a lot of weight loss clients, athletes. So I work with their nutrition, their workout programs, which athletes are different to work with. They don't need a lot of motivation. If they've risen to a decent status and they get it, you can just say, this is what I want you to do exactly, and they'll just go do it. Like, they don't argue with you, they don't give you a bunch of excuses. It's very rare. Versus your average weight loss client is more a lot of personal coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more like a life coach, where you're figuring out what's holding them back and why they have that behavior, and how we can peel those layers back so that they can get to the source of it, and then change that energy around it so that they can have success moving forward, which I know all about. So.
You brought up insurance, that's one of the companies that you're starting and growing. And I remember being at Life and Wealth Mastery, a Tony Robbins event in Fiji, and I heard about, and then I read it in his book, Money. I heard about a kind of insurance. And it's kind of crazy. It used to be just for really wealthy people, but now normal people can get it, where you buy an insurance policy and you minimize the death benefit and you maximize what you put into it. And then somehow you put that in, and then you borrow from that, which is from yourself, and you kind of never pay it back. And there's no tax consequences. Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you explain that to people? Because I think our audience, this is a perfect thing that people should investigate if they don't know about this.
I'll keep it somewhat general, just because of legal reasons. Like, you get too specific, someone watches this, they could say, hey, you said this wrong.
Okay.
So I'll keep it somewhat general, but you hit most of it on the head, really. So ideally, people start it young. If they start this young, they literally could retire on it by the time they're 50.
Yeah.
Like with, $1 million or $2 million in the bank. So you're taking already taxed dollars, right? So they've already been taxed. You're taking them, you fund your account, and ideally you're putting in money every month, and you minimize the death benefit because it's more expensive inside that vehicle. So maybe I only do like a $250,000 life insurance policy. Like, I have over $1 million on me, but it's in different types of insurance. So what we do is we get that benefit so that you're not overpaying on that, and then the rest of the money is going into funds that are ideally doing 6 to 12% a year, and then they're compounding, right? Because you're putting money in. Ideally, you're putting money in every month, and then it's compounding. And as it grows, usually, let's say in a stock, if it grew a bunch and you went to pull the money out, they're going to automatically take, say, 30%, right? Well, here you're just borrowing it, but no one cares if you ever pay it back, is kind of a way to put it. So you're getting that compounded interest on it, and it's growing. However, you're never having to pay on the growth. And if you've ever done I'm sure you have it, if people are watching, go look up like doubling a penny a day for 30 days. It turns into over $1 million.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, what? Like, it's really, compounding is such a big thing. that is one of the ways that you can create wealth that a lot of people just don't ever understand. So if you're 20 and you started and you're paying, say, $50-$60 a month for just the insurance side, and then you're putting in $250 a month, and you're able to just be disciplined and do that till you were, say, 50, you'd have well over a couple $1 million in your account and you could, use it to retire on. You could use it as supplemental income, whatever you want to do. I'll never retire, but
Yeah.
I'd go crazy if I sat still that long.
Now the crazy part of this is that you put money in and then you borrow it out right away. And the fund treats it as if the money's still there. So it's earning interest and compounding, even though you borrowed a good portion of it out.
It's only going to build on what's still in there. So if you take it out, you don't get, if you take $1 million out, it's not still building on $1 million.
Okay, so then then I've got something else going on, because I've got some insurance policies where it's building even though I took it out.
Okay, well, it might be a different type of policy. That's where it starts getting because like I said, this is the FCC and everybody that watches, checks up on all this stuff. You have to be kind of careful how you explain everything. There are certain policies, if you do it a certain way, you can do that. It's just not most people do it that way. So it kind of
okay, you didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from me, but I got 9 policies on my family members, helping them grow in this way. And I learned it from...
It's super smart. Yeah. It's super smart. I think the reality is, though, the fact that you can compound something, or you can be earning interest and not pay taxes on it, is super smart, right? So it should be one that, when people talk about diversifying your income streams, that's actually technically an income stream.
Exactly.
That should be a way that you're building wealth. So
yes.
A lot of people get caught up in, I need to open another company. It's no, it's not necessarily what we mean by multiple income streams. Right. Not have seven companies, right?
So we'll leave that one. You didn't hear it from me.
It's fine for everybody. That's great. I just going too far down that path, they get a little sketchy on it online. Yeah.
Well, if anyone in our audience wants to, if anyone in our audience wants to know about it, call me, and I'll give you my guy who specializes in this. And
I do it. I'm just saying the way you explain it has to be very careful.
Yeah.
Because the law, they've been really mean with people online. So I'm just I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole and say something slightly incorrectly and get dinged for it.
Let's talk about supplements then. I know you're big into supplements. Tell me what your process is. Again, I'm guessing that this came from your background, your upbringing, your parents or your father, and then into your MMA world. So how did that develop, and what are you doing now with that?
So it definitely came from my parents. So my dad was always hey, if you can figure out how to solve the root of the problem, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it like an antibiotic, you're better off. Mm-hmm. And he used to teach, he's hey, understand anti-bio, anti-life. You don't want to take antibiotics unless you have to. You don't want to take all these other things unless you absolutely, it's a life-saving kind of thing is kind of where he came from. So that was deeply rooted in me. And then as I became an athlete, and I was a lanky, skinny kind of kid. That's more my build. People say I'm big, but for my height, I'm 6'2", and I usually am right around 215, 220, and probably 12% body fat. So I'm pretty lean, pretty good size. But I have friends that are they literally carry 30 more pounds of just skeletal bone than mass than I do. They have a much bigger frame than I do. So growing up, the reason why I explain that is I was always I need to gain weight. I need to put on more muscle. I was getting taller and longer, super long arms, and looking to figure that out with my dad. And back then, the science was very new and still understanding all this. Remember, he made a drink that was supposed to help you gain muscle, and instead people were losing weight. Right? So now the funny thing is we probably could have taken that same drink, changed just a few things, and people would have started putting on mass, muscle mass. So then it became, okay, how I need to recover faster, because now I'm playing high school sports and I'm doing martial arts at the same time. I'm training all, 6, 7 hours a day, doing high school, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going to church study that we had to go to or we got in trouble, and then going to school, at 5:45 to start. So then I was like, okay, what helps me recover too? So then I was like, okay, I need to stop looking at food as something yummy to eat as a reward, and I need to start looking at it as what's the best fuel I can put in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I equate that to, like, you don't put, unleaded 87 octane in a super dragster, race car, like a funny car. No, it's 130 octane or whatever they put in the funny cars, right? That's what we want to run in our body, is the very best fuel, so that it always runs right and doesn't break down nearly as much, because we all have genetic factors that can pop up. They're just expressed if we're not taking care of our body and our emotional health. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be both. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know plenty of people have taken really good care of their body. They weren't able to take care of their emotional health, so they got sick because of their emotional health. The stress will and can make you sick. So then it just kind of snowballed from there. Then I just got really into it. My dad, when he got divorced from my mom, wanted to get in even better shape. I was like, I think 26, 27. I was in amazing shape. And he wanted to lift with me and work out with me. And he wasn't able to keep up. He was 60. And I said, first of all, well, you're 60.
Yeah.
Like, you're not 26. Like, there's a big difference. But it really bothered him, because he'd always been so much stronger than me my whole life. And now I was way stronger than him, much bigger than him. And we're about the same height. And I said, well, I wonder, this was just a guess off the top of my head. I said, I wonder what your testosterone's like. I mean, I'm sure mine's super high because I'm in my mid 20s. I wonder what yours looks like. And he kind of got mad, like it was an insult. And he went and got his blood work done, went back to his office, got his blood work done. And sure enough, he had like 110 total serum, which is like nothing. Like, might as well be a girl at that point. Like, it's so really that low. And so we started researching testosterone therapy for men. So that was way before it was ever a trend. And as you know, I owned or was vice president of 24 TRT clinics. And just, I've always been like, what maximizes my performance, my health, my mind? So, like, I take supplements for my mind, I take supplements for my body, my heart, like everything. It's not just, some people, I think, maybe like if they see me, they think, oh, you just care about the way you look. Now that I'm not, in a sport anymore, I did change the way I train a little bit because I didn't need to. And I started lifting a little bit more to look a little bit better, to make my muscle look more bubbly, so to speak. Kind of changed the way I looked a little bit because I thought it looked better for me. And I didn't need to train that crazy athletic way anymore. So, but yeah, it's just always snowballed. I'm always like, how can I be healthier? How can I be better? And so many friends have, come to me over the years, coming back from a doctor and saying, hey, like, he wants to put me on this, this, and this. And like, I don't know anything about that. And they just want me to take him at his word. And I'm just like, that's tough, because I know my dad used to always say, remember, in school, they teach us to deny and don't agree with the client to do anything that's outside of our scope, because it's then the liabilities on us. If they get a confirmation that I can use the supplement or some product and it somehow comes back to hurt them, they can be liable. So they just, if they don't know anything about it, they're just like, no, don't use it. That's what they're taught. It's kind of a brainwashing thing. And then they only get 4 hours to 8 hours max in nutritional understanding, which blows my mind. It's completely opposite of the Eastern medicine. It just comes down to like watching that side from my dad, and like really trying to understand as much as I could. And as the information has become more available over the internet, it's just, I mean, I probably spend 6 to 8 hours a day reading PubMed journals, which doesn't always mean pharmaceutical. A lot of people get caught up in pharmaceutical. It means that it's usually, ideally, a third party doing a double blind random placebo trial, and I read up on them all the time, and then I cross reference it with information across the world, especially Europe, because they tend to be a little bit ahead of the U.S. and they're a little bit more restrictive on the stuff that a lot of us would consider bad. So they keep that out of the nutrition over there. So use that information, and then a lot of times I'm the guinea pig first, and then I go check my blood work and see what it's doing and see if it's working along with how I'm feeling.
Yeah. So a normal person, a non-athlete, just a normal 40 to 60-year-old person that might be listening to this, what would you recommend they do about supplements and how to get healthier?
I think the first thing really starts with just how you eat. Most people don't even have that under control or have an idea what that looks like. Most people don't eat enough protein. We know that for sure. We saw that a lot through COVID, that there was a lot of tracking on people that didn't eat enough protein, tended to get the COVID virus easier. We also found out that people that were more obese or had extra body fat on them, doesn't have to, people think obese, they think like someone huge, like 20 pounds overweight is technically considered obese by many doctors. That being said, teaching, one of the first things I do is I teach people is like, when you sit down to eat your food, the first thing you should be eating is your protein. Eat your protein first. Eat your if you want to, if you're into vegetables, there's a lot of arguing in the supplement world, just like there's in the pharmaceutical world. There are definitely a lot of vegetables that are not that good for you. Mm-hmm. They have natural defense mechanisms in them. It's crack used to kill me when kale, remember about 5 years ago how big kale was? Like, oh, are you juicing your kale? Yeah. And I was like, what a bunch of morons. Go read up on it. Kale is full of heavy metals. That's why it tastes like crap. That's one of the reasons why it tastes like crap. Like, it's now if I went to a friend's house and they served it in the salad, I'd usually eat it, because I'm a nice guy. The reality is kale is full of heavy metals, and it's way too much for our body to get rid of, and so it's not good for your body. And it's just been so much, there's so many generalizations through food and supplements. And when it comes to supplements, it tends to be, I look at things more like, okay, what's going on if you're not getting where you want to go, or if, maybe I have high blood pressure. Tyler, what natural things can I do? So then we start breaking down the way they eat. Then second, we go over to what supplements they should be adding. So the first thing you want to do is reduce inflammation. So there's a couple products that I know work. Seen the blood work on thousands of people, and I'm like, take these two or one of these two, and keep taking them the rest of your life. Like, inflammation runs rampant throughout the U.S. because of our foods, the pesticides, the weed killers, our stress levels, the fact that we look at screens all day, in fact, increases inflammation. Sorry, I have a new retainer and I'm still learning how to talk. So every once in a while I can hear myself stumble and I'm like, so really, like, supplements really going to come down to like, what's the goal or what's the problem? And then how do we solve it? So I've rarely seen a situation that reducing inflammation won't increase someone's health. So that's like always a gimme. Glutathione and NAC. The FDA is doing their best to keep NAC off the shelves. They love to do that. You can find lots of supplements that are great supplements that the FDA will find a reason to ban. I wouldn't say I'm a conspiracy theorist by any means. However, I like to base things on results. That's the way I judge things, is like human behavior. Like, Robert's always treated me well, so I'll always treat Robert well. And that also means that I will respect him and protect him. That's who I am, right? So I feel like the FDA has this weird relationship where they only care about themselves. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, who and these people are all involved where there's some kind of money to be made if they pull something off the market. It's rarely actually in benefit of the American people. I mean, we've seen how well they did with the coronavirus. I mean, they did a terrible job with that. Who did a terrible job with it? They overstated it, and then they didn't even produce a vaccine that actually works based on results, right? So based on results, it doesn't work, and based on results, people are sicker than they were before.
What are
Anyway,
some, you mentioned there's some foods that are even vegetables that aren't good for you. You mentioned kale. Are there some other things? I'm now really curious because I'm trying to eat healthier. What are some other things that I should avoid?
you should keep tomato. Even though I love tomatoes, tomatoes actually should be at like a minimum, like just here and there are good. You eat too much of nightshade, anything that's considered a nightshade, which is a tomato, they can cause problems for certain people, more so than others. However, everybody has a slight bad reaction to them. Here are fun ones. So peas and green beans. So when I was little, we had always had a farm in our backyard that we could plant. We planted peas and watermelons and cantaloupe and stuff like that. Peas, we used to take the sweet ginger or sweet snap peas, and we should just rip the end off and just eat them with the skin piece on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, tasted good. Come to find out that outside shell has defense mechanisms in it. It's supposed to keep animals from eating it so the seeds can get in the ground. Green beans, same idea. Most beans are not good for you, especially if you eat the outer shell. So fruits are majority much better for you than a lot of vegetables. They actually are more nutritious in most ways. They have plenty of fiber. You can also control your glycemic index, how much sugar you're getting. So berries are generally the best in the way of fruits. Sweet potatoes are okay. Regular potatoes, not so much. However, if you're taking the skin off, you're in a better place because the skin is a protector for them. And a lot of people eat, like, I remember growing up, I don't know if this happened to you ever, but my parents used to, and this is funny because my dad was completely wrong or just lying to me. He used to say, you need to eat the crust on the bread because that's where the vitamins are. And I used to go, okay. And as I got older and I watched the bread getting baked, I said, that's a lie. It's just because it's darker. It's burnt more is basically what it is. The same thing goes with a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of information that's just misunderstood, and we're still learning a lot about it. Just the last few years, we've understood vegetables better than we have before. I could get a list and give it to you, but it's we just know that it's better to stick with more fruits than it is with a lot of the vegetables. Iceberg lettuce is probably, there's almost no nutritional value in it, right? If you want to eat it and you want to get the fiber from it, I'm like, no big deal. Kale, for some reason, absorbs all the metals in the soil, which is not good for you. Spinach, sparingly. Cooked spinach is worse. Fresh is better. You eat too much of a lot of things, and if you actually go look, if you eat spinach, like if you ate spinach every day of your life, it's a carcinogen. So there was my
What about
so
Popeye?
there's my routine.
What about
Yeah, I
Popeye?
don't know, man. They sold us on it good, right? I was like, where's the big forearms?
Yeah.
I ate it all the time growing up. And that was, before my dad passed, we would have conversations. He passed a few years ago, and he actually died from COVID. He had Alzheimer's at the time, and it took him like that. Before that, when he was still lucid and we could have conversations, he was just like, it's amazing how little we know about a lot of the vegetables out there, and how different meats affect us and what's in the meats and all that kind of stuff. And now we have access to that information, so it's pretty cool.
What do you eat?
I eat steak, chicken, fish. I don't eat much pork because I know that pork is like eating catfish. There's a lot of crap. That's all they eat, right? They'll eat anything. Maybe if pigs were fed correctly, they would be better for you, but there's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of negative materials that are in the actual meat. So I don't eat I used to eat a lot of bacon, and then once I really understood it, I was like, never mind. I'm good. I love bacon, but I'll have like one piece, and then I throw the other one off to my dog and let him eat it. And then I'll eat rice. I eat sweet potatoes. I do have like Caesar salads. A lot of my stuff hinges around like heavier proteins,
Mm-hmm.
lighter amount of carbs, and then the good fats are going to come from my natural source of protein. Obviously I'm going to want to get the better quality beef, better quality chicken. It's tough to always know what you're getting, unless you really know exactly where it comes from. However, I'm a big believer, beef has all the main amino acids that you need for your brain to work correctly. Like if you're a vegan, you can't get enough, of certain aminos that your body needs especially for your brain. So you might look good physically for a while, but then, you get some degeneration and lack of neuroplasticity in the brain because you're missing those. So if you're not taking like choline, as a supplement, you're going to be missing that. And beef has all of them. So I'm not saying people need to eat beef for every meal, but I would say it probably should be at least one meal.
Yeah. Have you heard of black chicken?
Black?
Yeah. Nope.
No.
My last podcast guest a couple of days ago, she's a gourmet chef, and she was telling me about black chicken, and she said it is so good. After you have black chicken, you'll never be able to eat a normal chicken, and told us that you can get it at Asian markets. So yesterday I went to an Asian market to get it, and I'm like shocked. It's really a black chicken. I'm going to cook it tonight and see how it
I'm
goes.
literally Googling it on my phone.
Yeah, you should. You should check that one out. That might be a counteract to kale or something like that. Now, you mentioned earlier about your mind also. There's some things that you do to you're still a young man there, 47, 48 or so?
48.
48. So what kinds of things could people be doing for their mind to help keep our minds young and fresh?
Well, learning is one of the biggest things. If you're not always it's just like a muscle. If you stop asking it to work, it will stop working. So it's just like when people retire and they stop using their mind, how quickly they just fall apart. It's not just so much the physical, it's the mental. So asking yourself to continually be challenged to learn something new and have benchmarks to hit is one of them. Then the other side of that would be the relaxation side of it, and letting things go and understanding how to let things go, and understanding that we're only in control of ourselves, and letting other people's trespasses not linger within our emotional state, I think are huge parts of being able to sustain happiness. Even though happiness is a choice, if you're not doing that, it's more of a struggle to continually be happy. So that, and taking a few times a day to just take a second and breathe, and really take 7 minutes, nice big slow deep breaths through your nose, out through your mouth, in your nose, out your mouth. Same thing the Navy SEALs do when they're fighting to calm themselves, because you have parasympathetic and sympathetic. You don't want to. A lot of times, most people, especially in the U.S., live in a fight or flight state, and they don't even know they're there. And if you're continually in that fight state or flight state, and you're never just able to be calm, there's gonna be a lot of chaos going on inside of you that will be detrimental to your health, and of course your emotional health. I mean, you can become depressed, unhappy, and go down some bad holes in life if you're not learning to let go and understand that we've got to just be in control of ourselves and be the best that we can be, and learn to let the rest go and just breathe through it sometimes.
Okay, so last question for you. This is an easy one though. How do people get happy?
How do they get happy? Can I swear?
Yeah.
You fucking choose. You choose to be happy. It's a choice. And I think one of the easiest ways to open that window or that door is to be grateful. A lot of people, when we get into a victim mode or an upset mode, we tend to, as people, look at all the negatives. and we focus heavily on them. And now they're just, now you can't see the forest for the trees, and the trees are all the victim mentality of all this is happening to me. And look how poor my friends don't treat me good enough. My friends weren't there for me. Notice it's almost always like everybody else did to them. And then sometimes we go down to the path or just as often, a lot of us are going down that path of, I'm not good enough. And we have some type of fear that makes us think that we're not good enough. So overcoming and understanding that, one, there's a time and season for everything. This too shall pass. If you'll just stay the course of looking at what you're grateful for every day, wake up, think of 10 things that you're grateful for. I don't care if they're the only same 10 things you can think of every day. If every day you do that, ideally you write them down. So, little sidebar, when people call me and tell me I'm getting divorced, I ask them to do one thing before they get divorced. I say for 90 days, you have to write down 3 things that you're grateful for in your partner. And after 90 days, you want to still divorce them, go ahead. Only had one person in 20 years still go through with that divorce, and that's probably over 200 people.
Wow.
So I know that being grateful keeps that door open for happiness. As soon as you shut down being grateful and having gratitude, for whatever we have. I mean, I've went through struggles. I'll go through struggles, right? I mean, the last 2-3 weeks I've been trying to get all my work done and take care of my wife that just had major surgery on her ankle and Achilles, and it's her right foot. She won't be able to drive for 2 months. So I have to drive her everywhere, right? Like, I can be grateful that I have an amazing wife to be with, and be happy that I get to serve her and show her how much I care, and take the opportunity almost as like a fun challenge. Like, how good of a job can I do here, and how much can I enjoy from it, versus being annoyed and frustrated and to take care of it yourself. So we have these choices all the time to be grateful, which is the choice also, I believe, to be happy. Like, we can be happy no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. It's just worth it.
Yeah, for sure. So Tyler, if people wanted to reach out to you to ask any questions, how might they reach out to you? What's the best way? Or do you want that?
Oh, yeah, no, yes. Love meeting new people. No, I mean, connecting with people is everything. I think connection is one of the biggest parts of life, Lucky enough to connect with you, and, when we were both working in Savvy, and got to know each other there, and have extended that friendship through past that. Instagram probably the easiest, because I'm usually full of friends on Facebook, so I'm usually having to delete people to add people. So that's at Tyler Johson Official is my Instagram.
Okay.
Because you can have unlimited friends on there, and you can message me on there.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And I thought of where we met. It was on the Power Hour, the Savvy Power Hour in the morning. You were amazing. You were amazing. And that's where I first got the opportunity and the pleasure to hear you. And it's been a pleasure having you here. I've picked up a bunch of little nuggets here that I'm going to incorporate into my life to be healthier and wealthier myself. So thank you very much, Tyler Johson, for being here on the Gratitude Podcast.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Robert. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.